What's up, boat lovers? We're on a 45-foot Viking Express. We've been working with this customer for a while on his old MBS control system, and he decided to just take the plunge. So he upgraded his new control system to the new Smart Actuator 1 and Smart Actuator 2 Troll. So we changed his lower stations, which gave me problems in our video, you will see, and we changed the upper station. So follow us while we show you how we installed this boat.
Hey guys, so this video is going to be a little bit different than our other ones. In other videos you're going to see us do from start to finish, like complete overhauls, ripping out the old system and putting in the new system. But given that this boat is a little bit tighter, we couldn't film all of the ripping out and everything. So you're mostly going to see my dad upstairs ripping out the side mount control heads, and I'm gonna be in the engine room ripping out the old actuators, the troll actuators, and making sure that everything inside that engine room is ripped out. It's really tight in there. You're gonna see in like later on in a few clips, but there was a lot of like tight, narrow spots that we could not actually film.
Okay, we jumped a little bit ahead of ourselves, but in order to get to the side mount control heads, which are here, they're actually buried. There's no way to get to it other than to remove the instrument panel here and get access to our station processor, our old station processor that's back there. As you can see, the mechanical cables go forward, and what we end up doing is we take the bezel out of here with the glass. Be very careful, and then we can lift this thing up out of the way. And the good thing about this one, we've already unplugged this harness, so we could actually take the whole gauge assembly out and work comfortably without having this in our way. Not all boats are built the same, but Viking sure makes a good quality boat. They know that technicians will be in here at one point in time, so they make sure that you're able to pull the harnesses. These are 12-pin Deutsch connectors, and they're labeled port and starboard. So we could actually remove the bezel and put this away so that we could get access to our side mount control heads. All right, on all the repairs that we do, we try to look for the easiest route to access what we need to access. But on these Express models, it's very hard because they compact everything, and we thought that we were able to get behind the distribution panel here, the AC/DC panel, and we did think that we would be able to get an opening, but this little opening here of 1 foot by 4 inches is not enough clearance for us to access our control head. So this is why we have to go a little bit in depth, pull some side covers out so that we could get access to the top bezel of the gauge panel, so we could remove the instrument panel and we're able to access the top of this. This is the only way on this boat that you could get access. So now once we have access, we're going to remove our handles, our cables, and then we can start ripping out everything. Now that we got the touchpad removed, which is this, it's going to change a little bit. This is more of a shallow mount compared to the other one that's going to go inside there. It's more in depth. That's for the CP control head. So we have our harnesses loose, we have our cables loose. That's the first thing that you want to do. You want to take these handles out on both sides. There is no right way or wrong way to remove these. Normally, if there was a hole in here with a label, we'll be able to put a puller in here to pull this out. But normally, what we end up doing is just applying some sort of lubricant inside here, and we pry from the inside in, so that this portion here gets pushed out. This shaft will be pushed inward on both sides. Or we put a piece of wood here so that we don't mar up this. But getting these handles out after so many years is going to be a little challenging to us. But we're used to it, and you'll see when it's done. One good note before you start removing your mechanical backup heads or the cables itself for future replacement, make sure that you know the orientation of the levers. They either push or pull, depends on the orientation of the levers. I have a normal cheat sheet here that I normally make, so I know that my port side, the throttle is push, and the shift is push. The starboard is push for throttle, and the shift is pull for shift. So when I go back to installing the new control heads and installing the new cables, I don't have to guess. I know that it's going to be right. In the 20 years of removing control systems and installing new ones, I was always able to manage to get these handles out with the shaft and the spline for the control handles. This is the handle itself, and then you have the spline. Well, this particular handle has a special spline just for this handle. You can't just get another spline and put it in here. Or the other way is to replace the handles and cut the shaft. But we don't give up. And this is what we have to do to get that spline out of there. We're able to save it. If we mar up any of the teeth on here, I'll put it on the lathe, clean up the teeth a little bit. But this is the old control head that we're removing just to save this. I could cut the shaft, but still, we still need to figure out how to push that shaft out of there. So we're getting it little by little. It is pretty bad. So there's ways of doing it. Just don't beat the boat up. What a mission. What a mission. Guys, this thing was seized in here. I don't find any set screw or anything. If you look down inside here, you could actually see that it fused itself over the years. This is 20 years. And I don't like beating on a boat because you could actually make a mistake and hit something and then cause more damage. Also, I don't like destroying these because if I get this out, how can I get the inside out without taking it to a machine shop and drilling it out and all that? So there's ways to do it. You just have to be very patient. A lot of hours of thinking on how to do this, but this is the claw that actually applies pressure behind it. This only will work if you have clearance behind here to grab it. So luckily we had enough clearance to grab it. Otherwise I would probably have to modify these jaws in order to grab it on the side. But if I have to tell you, this has been the worst one that I've ever experienced in the 20 years. You could actually see inside there, it's actually welded. So I'm gonna go ahead and clean this up, put it on my lathe so that the new spline, well, actually not the new spline, but this spline will actually go on the new shaft with the new control system. Now we got the spline off. We're able to take the 4 screws that hold the side mount flange, and now the control head will actually come out. The reason why we pull out the flange is so that we could get clearance around the helm pump. Otherwise we won't be able to do it. So now that's out. Now we're able to remove the control head and take it out. As easy as those 2 control heads came out, right. That one really gave me a hard time, and it's sitting right there. But as easy as they came out, they go back in. We just do it in the reverse pattern. I make sure that the bushings are in good shape on both of them, and if they're not, I replace them. But when we put these back in, we're going to make sure that we apply Tef gel on the shafts here so that us as technicians, when we come back to the boat or we need to do any service work on this, we won't ever run into this situation. But we always find challenges in installing or repairing. So we just have to cope with it. All right, we got our new Glendinning 22.5 degree side mount control heads installed. These are the mechanical backup. We went with the original bezels. If we would have changed it over to the new style, which is a little bit smaller, there would have been a discoloration in the gel coat. So we're gonna clean these up and install the original handles that he had on this boat. So that would cover that up. Now, remember I told you that when you're putting these things back in, these levers need to be oriented in the proper way so that you don't have to take things back apart. Well, when they come from factory, this is the way that they're set up. There's no reason for me to remove these now because I'm not installing the cables. But I do have the brackets in the right spot for push and pull on both sides. They do have this bracket here so that it prevents the control heads from pivoting. This is our new touchpad that is going to be going into this hole here, and I'm going to be wiring up these controls to the back of this. We got our touchpad mounted. It fits in the same hole. You might have to manipulate it a little bit, but it is deeper. I could guarantee you that, and not all the time there is space behind it from ripping out the old one and putting in the new one. There's no other way around it. They do make a flush mount unit, but this particular boat, we were able to get away with it. So we do have the original touchpad, and both port and starboard mechanical backup heads are actually plugged into the touchpad, and now we're going to be running harnesses from there to the actuators. Right, I'm in the engine room taking apart the port actuator. This is the old MBS. This has a built-in harness that goes directly right through the chases and directly to the main processor. They no longer use that. Now, on this particular boat, there is a neutral switch here that prevents the engine from starting in case it's in forward. But also they have an idiot light that tells the captain that the vessel's in neutral. So the new style does not have that wire, that extra wire that you can see right here, that goes to the dash. So we're gonna take this one off since it's the same footprint, remove the one that's on the brand new one, install this one on there, and then he'll have both the neutral safety switch, which is on these two, and he'll have the indicator lights for neutral at his main helm with that one. So now that we have the port actuator loose, the harness loose, cut back on all the tie wraps, the wire chases are open, as you can see on both port and starboard side. This is the old antiquated way, but the old antiquated way lasted 20 years. So they're very robust. We have the option to repair, and we have the option to upgrade. Upgrading is a nice way to go because it's all a one cable system. You have your power and you have your enable circuit along with the COM cable. That eliminates pulling all these wires through the chases in order to take out that actuator. So this is what we have to do in order to get that actuator out. But the new system is a one wire system. Tech tip, always maintain your actuators. Make sure that the pistons are free from debris and they're lubricated. All you need to do is just put a little bit of some sort of barrier, some sort of grease barrier on here. It could be whatever it is. All right, on this particular application boat, it's pretty tight. The motors are pushed forward and the both port and starboard actuators are on the outboard side. Well, on this particular boat, we have the starboard actuator and the trolling actuator mounted back to back on this. I'm going to show you how this is mounted and the modification that we did to this. Normally, the actuators come with a backing plate, but in order to put the backing plate, what we're trying to do is simplify this because the backing plate is utilized to offset the processor box back here. So what we do is we put spacers in between so it's offset, that we don't have to drill in this. We're utilizing the same footprint as the old MBS. So that's a little trick. But now, in order to make this trolling actuator fit on the back of here, we're gonna customize a piece of starboard to fit on the same footprint as the old MBS, as you can see here, and we're gonna drill through the starboard so it's gonna be bigger, and then this portion, the mounting on this, the four mounts are going to actually screw directly right into the starboard and hold it. It's going to give us ample clearance. Oh, it's going to give us enough clearance for the cables to actually come around here without binding. So this is the troll. So the troll is going to be coming from the outboard side and into those locks right here. So as you can see, this is not mounted. So this is how it's going to be mounted when we're done. Now that we got our actuators mounted, our port and starboard and our trolling actuator, we're going to be running our mechanical backup cables. And this is a little bit tricky on this boat. They do a very nice job of giving us paths to take. So you can see that there's a tray for the port side and a tray for the starboard side. Then if we come inside, I'll show you. Comes up and it goes into its dedicated passage tubes for the port, for the starboard side, and then it has one for the port side. You could actually see the cable go through here. Now, in order for us to do that, we're gonna have to take apart this so that we could get back into here. And not only that, we have to take apart this locker. This locker, you could see that we have the starboard cables, the mechanical cables coming back, and it goes directly down the starboard stringer, outboard stringer. So on the port side, we're gonna have to take this apart, this chest apart, pull it out so that we could get into the hole, because there's no way to get to it. But also it has its dedicated cable run. It runs from the front all the way back to the back. And if you can see, we have our two cables there. It goes through that wall, and that's where we have to take apart that little cabinet. Well guys, that's how it's done. We pulled our two cables. These are two brand new cables. Look how nice they move. Beautiful. Okay, and we're gonna discard the other cables, but it is wise to always replace and give the customer a new set of cables if he's putting in a whole new system. Makes everybody's life a lot easier. All right, I almost forgot to show you. We got our starboard actuator mounted on the original plate. So what we end up doing is we use these shims so that we don't have to use the back cover. But I modified a plate, starboard plate, to bolt on to the same plate so that I could use screws to mount the trolling actuator. The trolling actuator is very light. So we got our harnesses running down through the front. And the only thing that we need to do on this side is connect one device link cable. And you can see our new cables there. And these are our new cables going from the actuator to the engine. These are backup. So I'm gonna have Julian come into this hole, put our device net cable onto the trolling actuator, put our terminating resistor there, and we're done. All right, the moment of truth. Now that we are here, you can actually see we do have the mechanical backups connected here, but not in the engine room. So let's go ahead and turn it on. 1, 2. The two solenoids locked down. We are ready. Take warm off. And oh, just like butter, guys. Just like butter. All right, so now we're gonna go ahead and do the calibration on the actuators and trolling valves. And then we're gonna start putting back everything over here and in here.
All right, so we got Houdini over here going into the back corners and calibrating the actuators. As you can see, he's a professional and he knows what he's doing. Please never try this on your own. Always call someone professional like him, so that way you don't have to get into these holes. All right, guys, so we're out here on this beautiful sunny day. This is the moment of the install where we're coming to an end. So I'm up here. I installed the control head up here, all beautiful, all new and shiny. As you can see, my dad is downstairs testing the new control system that we just installed. It's beautiful. Look at it. It's working flawlessly. And all we had to do up here was cut out the section of the control head so that we can mount flush. We made this little plate over here specifically for this control head, so everything looks nice and neat with the whole setup that the captain is going to be using up here. So look at it. Brand new, flawless. This is what you get up here.
Now that we have all the cables calibrated, the mechanical and the electronic portion of it. Now we could go ahead and start reassembling everything back. Once this is back in, we will not have access to any other stuff that we need to get to. So you could actually see in this 45 Viking, it's pretty tight. So now we could go ahead and start putting everything back. We already got the gauges back in, the glass. Now we're going to go ahead and reinsert the bezel, tighten the bezel down, plug the gauges in, start it, and then we're going to test it. Not only do we test the vessel at the dock, forward, neutral, reverse, and troll, but we're also able to check the synchronization to find out that both engines are syncing properly. There's a way to do this, okay, but I highly recommend that you call a qualified technician to do this, because this could create an accident. If you're not paying attention, something could easily go wrong. But the vessel shifting capability, you see, is in forward right now, and we are blinking in synchronization. So the port handle goes forward, and now we could actually accelerate with the starboard. That's the man alarm for these things. So all it's just saying that there's no transmission pressure while it's in gear. So that has nothing to do with the operation of the control system. Bring this back to neutral. Bring this handle back to neutral. Synchronization goes away, and we're done. All right, my boat lovers. Listen, this is a little product tour of what we do. Guys, it is imperative that if you do a control change the push-pull cables. It's a little bit more work, but it's worth it at the end. These cables don't last forever, so we end up replacing the port side, we change the starboard side, and we got this little model over here that comes with the install. But this 45 Cabo Express is tight, and yes, we have to get inside that corner to install it. So we have all the cables there mounted properly on the port, and on the starboard side I've actually showed you this before, and the trolling valve is piggybacked right behind the other one on a special starboard platform there. So this is a man application. All of our cables are secured perfectly on both sides, and the controls upstairs. We've taken everything, put everything back. We made sure that these handles will come off for whatever reason they need to come off. A technician might need to come over here to do some work inside, and he needs to get inside there. They're gonna come off. I made sure that. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to experience that, but I made it happen when we put the new handles back. So this is what we're dealing with on our 45-foot Cabo Express. Beautiful boat. And the customer's gonna love this control system. Guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. It was a little tedious for all of us, but if you have any questions, please leave it in our comments, and like and subscribe.